and risk management. And the question that PC is always asking, what are the value for money Digital Jersey to deliver? But before we'll go with the questions, let's introduce ourselves. Deputy Ina Gardiner, Chair of the Public Accounts Committee.
I'm Deputy Christina Moore, I'm the Vice Chair.
And Deputy Raluca Kovac, member of the committee.
Deputy Karen Wilson, member of the panel.
Deputy everyone member. VJ Korea, lay member.
Philip Taylor, lay member.
Lynn Hammond, Controller and Auditor General in attendance.
Would you introduce yourself and the team?
Tony Moretta, CEO, Digital Jersey.
And Amy Taylor, COO of Digital Jersey.
Thank you very much. And the first question I'll hand to Deputy.
Just before, apologies, I just have to mention that I might have to receive a call around 3 o'clock, a doctor appointment, in case I need to step up.
Yeah, thank you.
So as the Chair introduced, one of the key themes in this review is looking at value for money. So if we could start, please, by asking you how Digital Jersey demonstrates value for money in your use of taxpayer funding, including how you measure outputs versus outcomes.
Okay. So I think it's worth referring to what we've sent you and go through. I think, Amy, perhaps if we start off with what we've sent you, and then if you want to clarify and ask questions on that as well.
I think perhaps for the purposes of this public hearing, and particularly if there are people who are listening, if you could answer the question in this forum, that would be helpful. I unfortunately don't have access to any
Okay, well, I'll start off and Amy can add in some of the detail on the numbers. So I think one of the things that we can do for value for money is because we are arm's length, we're able to raise money from industry as well. So we actually raise money from, because we're an industry association,
yes,
very
but
similar to...
I think the question relates to the taxpayer funding component, and that's really what we're looking at, the value for money.
So what I was going to say is we can add to that. So we make the taxpayer funding go further because we actually have the ability to raise. We raise on average about 25% of our taxpayer funding we raise from industry as well. So we make that go further. So we can not just spend the taxpayers' money we get. So that's one of the benefits we get as an industry association. In terms of how we actually spend our money, I think because we are a commercial organisation in the sense that we're separate from government, we have a set budget. We have some stats, I think we said before, if we look over the last couple of years, we've had our funding cut in real terms by about 25. Inflation has been about 25%, and our funding in that period has only raised about 5%. We manage our costs, so we've reduced our senior headcount fairly significantly over the last few years, our overall headcount by about 15%. So we're very careful what we do with our money there. So we deliver more from less in that sense, so value for money. I think also we are focused on a range of initiatives such as growing, and we can talk about that later on in specifics, in terms of creating jobs, supporting local companies, and we are following the sort of economic development priorities because we're an economic development agency. So I think we are focused on getting the most bang for our buck, so to speak, in terms of how we use that taxpayer funding. I think one of the things we also see as well is not only the feedback from government, but I think the fact that we have grown our membership over the last 5 years and doubled it to about 220 corporate members. They are all paying to be members of Digital Jersey. So it is quite a good proxy that we are actually demonstrating value for money for them as well as government in terms of what we are delivering. I also think in terms of what Digital Jersey does, we perform a function in terms of value for money for the taxpayer. As you know, very much the government digital team is focused internally on government IT. We have a function that goes externally as well across. So if you look at some of the work Digital Jersey has done historically, we were the ones who developed the digital health strategy across Jersey, the digital skills strategy, the Smart Island strategy. Now, we've done that with cooperation. We brought people together. You might have seen, possibly not being in here, we've announced the formation of the AI Council, where we brought together industry and government and the regulators today to have an AI strategy. So I think we deliver a very important function for the taxpayers of Jersey in terms of being future-looking, in terms of looking at what happens for digital. And only the other day, as some of you may have seen, if you listen to the fiscal policy panel, they talked about the threats to Jersey's economy, that we are very dependent on financial services. The digital sector is the only other economic sector that pays salaries close to financial services. but also the threats and opportunities from technology, particularly around AI, are very important. And I think there's very little focus on the future. And I think for the very small, something like 0.01% of government expenditure that's spent on Digital Jersey, to be looking at the future and innovation and how we cope with the opportunities and threats of technology, I think is a very important function for the people of Jersey. I don't know whether you had anything to add, Amy, in terms of value for money.
Well, I was just going to ask if you could perhaps talk us through how you measure your outcomes.
Do you want me to pick
Yes,
up on
that
that?
was
So
good.
I think we try and reflect on this in the same way that the Public Finances Law does in terms of economy and efficiency and effectiveness. And the effectiveness is really where we talk about outcomes particularly. We operate on an OKR model following what tech companies often do in terms of measuring their key results. And that is something that is embedded in our culture as an organisation. So we set our objectives, we agree those with government, and we have headline outcomes that we're looking for, like growing the digital economy. Then underneath that, we set objectives for the year, headline objectives, and then detailed key results. And then each team member is given a detailed set of key results they are to deliver. We monitor those on an ongoing basis. We report on them quarterly, internally, and to government, so that we can track that. And we also look for external feedback. So we are very keen to make sure that those to whom we are delivering services and activities give us feedback. So we take feedback from events, from all of our courses. We have a target of receiving at least 80% feedback on all the courses that we've delivered, from our facilities. Everything that we do, we are making sure that we are hitting the outcomes that people are looking to do. And we're also building on that with sort of impact evaluation, and particularly with Impact Jersey. So we're in a process, we've done an evaluation of the first programme. We're in the process of finalising that, so we haven't published it, but we will be publishing the outcomes of that in terms of really looking at what is the theory of change, what are we trying to see change, how is that change being delivered, what are the outcomes, and what are the potential sort of benefits for the public of that work. So that's very much part of our culture, I think, as an organisation.
Thank you. In your strategy and business plan for 2014, 6 strategic targets were identified. Are you able to confirm to the Public Accounts Committee whether those have been achieved? Apologies, that is somewhat looking back in time, right back at the beginning of...
I did check if that was a typo when it came in.
Yes,
I'll
that's
do it
why I
from
was
memory if Amy
reaching
can
for
find it.
my
I can't find it in my
glasses.
pack. I think it's worth saying, so that was at the very beginning of Digital Jersey in 2014. Believe it or not, I wasn't here at the time, so I came in at the end of 2015. I think I'd seen you'd had a discussion with the people about what bodies were originally set up with, and it was there. When I came in at the end of 2015, there was a very strong message from the minister at the time, from government, that the strategy wasn't working, it was the wrong strategy. We also had, before I came, there was an open letter from industry to government saying Digital Jersey wasn't working, it was focused on the wrong things, it was too corporate. I also recall on the first week I got here, some of you might remember, government published an innovation review from Tara Alice from McKinsey, and there were a lot of detailed recommendations. So we actually published a new strategy at the end of 2015, going to 2016 with the backing of government. What I would say, because I looked at this, there were lots of things, and in some ways Digital Jersey I think was a bit like a startup. They pivot, they think, well, we set up one thing. If I look back on what I found, I think there was a big focus, understandably at the time, from Digital Jersey on e-gaming, which other jurisdictions have focused on, and government had backed Digital Jersey to do that, and then government pulled the plug and said, we don't want you looking at e-gaming. I think there were a lot of objectives under Digital Jersey they didn't have control over, such as digital government, immigration controls, things like that as well. So that is why not only did we agree a new plan for Digital Jersey going forward, but we split responsibilities, because actually we recommended the formation of what was then called the Digital Policy Unit. We said government needs to take responsibility for policy, regulation, legislation around digital. But also, I think looking back, it's easy to look at some of the headlines. You know, the Jersey Space Programme was in the original plan, which was a good idea in terms of getting kids interested in technology, not so practical in terms of putting a satellite up into space. If we look at what we've evolved since, what Digital Jersey then did was Jersey Coders. We've had the courses since. If you look at where it's gone to now with F1 in schools, or STEM racing as it's called now, we have still carried on looking at how do you get school kids interested in technology and the role there. So looking back on Digital Jersey as well, the original plan was very much focused on how to grow the digital economy as a sector in itself. I think one of the things that, and that has carried on as one of our main focuses, so growing the number of jobs, supporting local companies, bringing in inward investment. But one of the things that I think was missing, because this isn't a function government has historically done, is technology is both a vertical in the economy, but it's also a horizontal. So the importance of every other economic sector of Jersey using technology, whether that is fintech and financial services, agri-tech and agriculture, even tourism, that wasn't being performed as a function. So we have performed that as well. And you add on to that the focus on skills. So I would say we have evolved since then. There are certain things that were set up around jobs, which we can go into. So we did some work recently on the stats. One of the problems of measuring the digital economy is Statistics Jersey, in common with the Office of National Statistics. They still use SIC codes, so Standard Industrial Classification codes, to measure economic sectors. The only way they measure the digital sector is on telecoms and information communication. They miss out other sectors as well. And so what we saw, and this is the same in the UK, does it? That's why the UK had a Tech Nation report. So we could have Amazon, Facebook, and Monzo, and they wouldn't appear as digital. They'd appear as retail and advertising. Okay. What we have seen over the years is we have seen, when we looked in 2019 with Tech Nation, there are about 2,000 jobs in the pure digital sector, 3,000 jobs in the wider digital economy. And out of the members we've looked at, we can see that about 180 digital companies that are or have been members have been created in the last 10 years. So we have had that focus on job creation, company expansion, inward investment. But I think we've had to have a wider focus because that's what Jersey has needed.
Thank you. I'm just conscious
Sorry.
of the time. I have one quick follow-up, which I think you can answer quite briefly. So what I'm hearing from your answer is that there's really a constant review process
Yes.
between yourselves and government,
Yes.
and your strategic outcomes have evolved
Yes.
through that review process. Would you?
Yes, definitely. And you're right, we've done that with government. We've had strategy sessions, annual review. Yeah.
So who is government in that context?
In terms of who we
Well,
work
you just
with,
said you agree with government, so who in government?
so principally our funding has always come from the economy department. So I would see us, we are principally an economic development agency funded by government through the economy department. So our core funding has always come through the economy department. Well, I say always come through. When I got here, it was the Chief Minister's office. So originally with Digital Jersey, the
Now
Chief
it's from the
Minister's
economy.
office
Let's
control-
agree.
Now it's the economy. We have had funding from education. We have had funding from the Chief Minister's office for Impact Jersey and things like that. But principally, we are being funded from the economy department.
So what are your principal objectives at the moment in meeting government or the minister's policy?
So we've growth of the digital sector in terms of jobs and companies, and that includes helping local companies grow, export, succeed, also bringing in relocations around digital to create new jobs, companies, etc. Use of technology across the industry. We've had a particular focus under our current minister to focus on research and development. Jersey does not have an R&D function. We don't have a university. Organisations like Innovate UK and the Digital Catapults and Tech UK and Tech Nation in the UK don't cover Jersey. We have to fulfil a lot of that role. So we've got growing the digital industry, improving the use of technology across the whole economy, and then also growing digital skills.
So who say the Department of Economic Affairs, they determine the budget.
Yes.
How do they do that?
So over time, we had a budget when I got there. In each government plan, we have tended to sit down and work with the economy department to say what is the plan. It depends on how long the government plan is forecast to go on for. What we have a process which we've done every single year that we submit a business plan by the end of October every year to the economy department. We take that through our board first. The economy department then review it. We have a partnership meeting with the minister present and officers. They give us feedback on the business plan. We make relevant changes. Historically, we have had our budget agreed, told roughly what our budget is going to be in advance. Over the last couple of years, our budget, shall we say, has been a bit more last minute. So we will go in with some assumptions on our budget, but we don't always get what we've asked for, which is understandable. And sometimes we have to cut back some of our activities. Sometimes we're asked, if you don't get this amount of money, how do you do it? So that's the process we go through every single year.
Is the department clear on the outcomes it's looking for?
So we put forward an operational plan which has the OKRs that Amy was talking about in the plan. We talk about our activity, we talk about the outputs, we get feedback from government and make changes based on that feedback, and the same with our board. And then we agree finally at the end of the year what we are going to be delivering and what our budget is going to be.
Just very quickly, because it's important. In a letter to EA panel for the budget for 2025, you said the partnership agreement with Economy Department was due to expire on the 31st of December 23 and was extended by side letter agreed by both parties for 3 years to December 26. Can you advise PC what's the reason for the extension and how government, what do you need to present to have this extension?
So Amy can provide some detail, but the high level is that the existing partnership agreement was expiring. I think government was working on a revised partnership agreement, but it wasn't ready, so we had an extension. I think a lot of ALOs were extended, their existing partnership agreement was extended for 1 year. We requested an extension of 3 years to match. We had a separate agreement on Impact Jersey with government in terms of a management contract. I think we'd said that within our response. And we didn't want to be exposed by having one contract with government that wasn't lined up timescale with another. So that was why ours was extended under the same terms for 3 years.
Okay, so you agree the outcomes with the minister or the chief officer, and you have KPIs to demonstrate meeting those outcomes. How often do you meet to report back on the outcomes against?
So so there's different aspects to that. I mean, there are lots of day-to-day discussions, and some of the economy team are involved in some of the things we do. It's worth saying that the economy team send a representative to every single board meeting. We have a board meeting quarterly. The government get a copy of all of our board pack. So the economy department get a copy of the whole board pack that is sent over to them in advance. The partnership agreement stipulates we have 2 partnership meetings a year, and our chair joins those, and the minister joins that as well as officers. So there's quite a constant feedback, but the formal thing is the partnership agreement and the 4 board meetings.
So if the outcomes weren't being met, they would be annoyed with you, should we say?
Well, yes. So we provide. Yes, we provide to every board meeting a pack showing how we're progressing against the OKRs, and government get a copy of that, and we review it at the end of the year as well.
Okay, now you have to, one of your roles there is marketing the digital economy to outsiders. To what extent do you liaise with the other marketing bodies for the island? Would it be Jersey Finance or Jersey Business?
So the marketing heads, I believe, have a monthly or quarterly meeting to coordinate and tell each other what is going on off island and on island in terms of events, things to work together. So certainly between the economy, so Jersey Finance, Visit Jersey, Jersey Business, the marketing teams get together to agree that. Obviously, we are quite often marketing different things. So there's not a huge crossover with tourism with us, although we sometimes use, if we're doing a relocation campaign, we can use some of the Visit Jersey materials. We work most closely with Jersey Finance because of the focus on fintech, and government as well with Locate Jersey. So we have a Jersey for Fintech brand that we have, and fintech.ja is a website. And that is a joint marketing campaign with Jersey Finance and Locate Jersey with support from the JFSC. And we had planned events, and then COVID and the events will change, but we had a website, campaigns. We do have joint events. We support each other locally and off island as well. But it depends on the subject matter, how we work together.
Okay, now, what work do you do in terms of promoting cybersecurity? And,
So
AI, as well, you mentioned AI.
yeah, so they're different in the sense we treat them. So it's worth going back to when when I came in and I said we recommended setting up a digital policy unit within government. We agreed a sort of demarcation, for want of a better word, to avoid duplication. And the government digital policy unit at the time focused on things that were, say, hygiene factors or worked across the whole economy, things that needed legislation, regulation. So, for example, they focused on cybersecurity, GDPR, the Information Commissioner, setting up the Jersey Cyber Security Centre. So one of the reasons you don't see us making it a big part of what we do and promote is because other parts of government are doing that, so we don't duplicate. We are the liaison with industry because of the membership on cybersecurity. We promote what is happening, whether that's events, whether that's communicating to our members about new law changes, consultations and things like that. So we act as a conduit for industry, but we don't duplicate what they're doing. So that's cyber. AI is a bit different. So what we've announced today, it's just gone out, is we've formed what we've called the Jersey AI Council. We've been doing some work since the beginning of the year with outside expertise. We have Professor Dame Wendy Hall on our board, who's the UK representative on the UN AI Advisory Panel. She co-wrote the Theresa May government's AI strategy. She's on our board. We've also worked with Professor Alan Brown. We've looked at Jersey. We've identified the big opportunities are public sector and financial services for AI. We formed an AI council which we chair, but it comprises Jersey Finance, the Jersey Financial Services Commission, the Information Commissioner, the Jersey AI Forum, and the IOD, and government. Government are represented as well. So that is about a coordinated plan for how Jersey becomes a rapid adopter of AI with a particular focus, not exclusively, but a particular focus on financial services.
And how would you, if I was to ask them, what they say that you contribute to that?
So I think we act as the convener. We act as the access to expertise off island because we don't have a huge amount of expertise on island for AI. I think we have a focus going forward in terms of AI skills, in terms of the identification of technology to use. Because again, Jersey Finance is a promotional body in an industry association. Government is focused as of internally. So we use our relationships with academic institutions, with big companies like Google. We've had conversations with Google and Microsoft about how they get involved. So the technology side as well, thought leadership. But actually, we need every one of those organisations to build AI into their plans going forward.
And those type of activities related to cyber and AI, that's built into your budget?
Yes, absolutely.
So it doesn't come as a big surprise to everybody that, oh, we've got to have more money for this or more money for that.
Well, the Jersey, so we built into our operational plan, when we went to government at the end of last year, we said, I've forgotten the exact wording, that we would develop an AI roadmap for Jersey. And that was agreed by government we'd do it. So we've been doing work on that. And the AI Council is one of the recommendations from that work we've had done.
Now, no Public Accounts Committee meeting can ever take place without discussing remuneration.
Okay.
Now, how are your remuneration and bonuses for the organisation? How's that process work?
Okay. Do you want to talk about that, Amy?
Yeah, let me just find the notes on it. So we have, so in terms of the executive and board remuneration, that we have a remuneration and nominations committee. That's a sub-committee of the board of directors, and it's their responsibility, obviously, to set pay for the chief executive and for board members. For the chief executive, the process is for an annual appraisal where there's a set of objectives, both personal and business objectives, and the company objectives that Tony is tasked with delivering. And those there is an appraisal process to assess his performance against those. I know this, I'm not party to it because this is a board activity. The chair meets with Tony annually to go through that. Then the Remuneration and Nominations Committee then meet separately to discuss whether there's two areas of pay. So it's whether a bonus, there is a bonus pot available, and whether to award that bonus in the year at the end of the year based on performance. And they look at cost of living. Those decisions are made by the Remuneration and Nomination Committee, by the board on the recommendations of the Remuneration and Nomination Committee. Sorry.
And is there interplay with the government on that?
So our pay budget is part of the budget we send to government as part of our proposals in October, which we have to submit to government each year. And our pay proposals, in terms of our intention around cost of living
Yeah.
reviews is included in that. We typically aim to sit within whatever government is doing with civil servants, although typically we haven't been able to match the civil service pay rises over the last number of years because our budget hasn't grown with RPI sufficiently to enable that. So they are aware of what our pay proposals are in advance of any decisions being made on pay, and they approve our budget. We answer any questions that we're asked in terms of specifics around that, but then they're not part of the Remuneration Nomination Committee.
Chair keeps on looking at me, which probably means she's got a supplementary question.
No, actually, if you can, what are the objectives must be met by senior executives to be able to receive
really-
bonuses? What are the objectives that the remuneration committee would consider when they consider if bonus is due or not?
So
I'm not
we're talking
asking if
about
it's right or wrong. Do you
Sorry,
have the
I-
objective?
I was going to say, I think
Yes.
you probably
So-
need to answer that 'cause it's really
So I
valuable.
when I do my appraisal with the chair, we set out what the objectives are for the following year. Generally, they are a mixture, as Amy said, of achieving, say, 90% of the outcomes for the whole organisation, the business plan we submit. There are personal objectives as well, leadership, staffing, relationship with the board, things like that. And so the board get together to discuss, and as Amy said, it is a mixture of bonus and is in a mixture of pay. And typically what happens is that the cost of living increase goes to remuneration nominations as well, and the board decide whether that applies to me as well or not.
Yeah.
And probably we need to speak, we'll follow this with letter to the boards to clarify more.
Can I ask one more question,
Yeah.
please, Chair?
Yes.
How many directors do you have?
So we currently have, so I'm the only executive director on the board. We have a chair and we have four NEDs.
non-executives.
We just reduced the size of the board, so we just had 2 members of the board step off and we only replaced them with 1. We made a conscious decision as our funding was cut last year. We reduced the board costs by only replacing 1. And it's worth saying, if we are talking about salary and stuff, that I didn't get a pay rise this year at all because our funding was
You have
cut.
my sympathy.
I'm not asking for sympathy, but if that is one of the subjects, so yeah.
No, so what skills did you lose having dropped one of the non-executive directors or 2 of your directors?
So we do a skills audit and things like that. We went in looking at who we were losing from the board, what we had on it. Again, that wasn't us, that was the board, ran the recruitment for that piece. I wasn't part of the interview panel, quite rightly, as part of that. The board went in with
I really mind about the time. What skills have you lost? If we had like short answers, since
So we've lost.
because we really
So we lost 2. We lost somebody with sort of governance experience and had been on the board of the Information Commissioner, and we lost someone who was an entrepreneur on the e-commerce side. I think the board decided we had enough governance experience still on the board with our chair of audit and risk, and we had the entrepreneurial side still there as well. But we brought in someone, the board brought in someone with a mixture of governance experience, chair of other organisations elsewhere, they're off island, but also had some of that entrepreneurial experience as well.
Okay, thank you. Next.
You've touched a bit briefly on that. How often do you meet with government officials on relation of engagement with the government? Who typically attends these meetings from both sides?
So when we have the partnership meetings, from our side, we have Amy and myself and our chair. Depending on what the topics are, we might take some other people from the team. On the government side, traditionally, we have the minister. We often have at least one, if not more, of the assistant ministers in the department. We will have the senior officer responsible for the digital side and some of their team as well. So
That's regular engagement.
they are the twice a year partnership meetings. But as I said, the senior person responsible in the economy department for digital attends every board meeting we have.
And how are key decisions or actions recorded and followed up?
Well, so government take notes of the partnership meetings, send them to us for agreement with actions, and we follow it up. And we have lots of regular meetings as well, apart from that, on particular issues, or I say when they attend the board. And government get a copy of the board pack, minutes of previous meetings and things like that.
How long have you had a partnership agreement in place?
Oh, I can't remember when, I mean, we've always had an agreement which covered
Yes.
various things. I can't remember, I cannot remember, I don't know whether you
So
noted before your time.
The current agreement, which has been extended, was a 4-year agreement. And then obviously has been extended by 3 years before that.
7
I
years.
don't know. So the current agreement has been operating since.
But we must have
2019.
had an agreement in place because we've always
Quite
followed
so.
the same
Yes,
process, submitting the
but has there
business
been
plan.
any change since you moved on to partnership agreement in terms of the
2019.
way? the
Data,
relationship
because the last one was 2019, apologies, I can't remember what was there before, we can find out. I think certainly there are a few, probably fair to say, tweaks. We've seen the new partnership agreement that at some point we will have to move over. From memory, one of the few changes, remember, is that we did, currently in our partnership agreement, government have to give us 6 months' notice of any changes to funding so we can prepare for the impact of that. From the draft we've seen of the new partnership agreement, that 6-month figure has changed to 2 weeks, which is not ideal. Now, we don't know what, we would go back, we haven't had to sign that yet because of the period of it, but that is obviously one of the things we go back and discuss.
So how is your organization's work aligned with island outcomes indicators, and how do you measure your contribution?
So it's fair to say that in some areas we look completely across all the island indicators. So Impact Jersey is a good example. Whenever there's been a change of government, we look back at the island priorities and what Impact Jersey is doing. I'll be honest though, because we're an economic development agency and funded by the economy department, we focus on the economic outcomes rather than trying to do everything. We focus primarily on the economic outcomes in whichever government plan and things like that. So as we get a new minister in, a new government, we have a discussion about what the priorities are. I said we've had more of a focus on R&D and innovation of the current government. So we do see those, we do look at it, but we don't try and do everything, to be honest. We focus on what the economy department priorities are because they are providing our funding.
So what data or KPIs do you use to demonstrate this impact? Like more specific, if you can present clear outcomes from 2024 or for the 2025 KPIs.
Yeah, so our overarching measure, which we agreed with government for the last 2 years, has been on membership growth. And the reason for that is because that demonstrates that the industry believes we're doing a good job because they're prepared to pay us. And we've actually put our fees up and continue to stay members. So we focus both on growth of number of members and also on retention, because obviously that's also important to demonstrate long-term commitment and alignment with our goals. So our measure for 2024 was a 5% increase with an 80% retention, and we hit that and just slightly beyond it. In 2025, our measure actually was to maintain that, because we've grown by over 100% in terms of membership numbers in 5 years. We felt that it was quite ambitious to go beyond that. We've actually hit closer to 8% growth this year, so we probably need to set ourselves a stretch target for next year, because we do seem to be able to continue to grow our membership. And also a retention rate of over 70%, and we're comfortably hitting that. So I think that's been the overarching measure as a sort of proxy for demonstrating that we are delivering value to the digital economy.
Do you have any other measures?
So we have a lot of other.
Give another
So-
tangible example, because it's really helpful to understand.
So that was our key measure under industry, under innovation for this year. We focused on the deployment of funding into new projects. So that's both use of Impact Jersey funding and other funding. And we had a target of deploying at least 2 million of funding through those projects. We are close to hitting that. It's slightly dependent. We've got a number of projects that are sort of in flight for approval at the moment under Impact Jersey, which we'll see whether we get over that line or not. We hit about, so CareTech is a big example of that. That's our biggest Impact Jersey programme, and we've seen sort of north of 1.5 million deployed as a result of that.
And how are you monitoring each? Sorry.
In the same line, how do you report progress to government or stakeholders?
So other than all of we've talked about in terms of our quarterly reporting and so forth, in particular in Impact Jersey, there's also an oversight group which was established under P75 in 2022 when that was approved by the State Assembly, and we report to them quarterly. We provide detailed reports against progress and outcomes and how much funding has been spent. We operate on a kind of not-for-profit basis on that, so we estimate our budget for what is needed to deliver that, and also what we expect in terms of being able to deploy. But any funds that are unspent are returned to government, and we report on that at a very granular level to government on a quarterly basis.
It's worth saying, as well as promoting technology, we're trying to be a good user of technology as well. We have a series of dashboards that we send to the board for each quarterly board pack. The government get that as well, showing where we are underperforming, overperforming, on target, etc., along different areas. We measure usage of facilities. We measure engagement with members. We measure all of the different things. Okay. But we measure this regularly to go into our board pack, and that goes to a government on a quarterly basis.
Thank you.
Thank you. Your grants for 2023 were 2.325 million, and that was reduced in 2024 to 2.1, and remained at 2.1 for 2025. Your first listed most significant risk is delivery risk, which you stated as increasing due to potential reductions in your grant. So what we're interested in is how you prioritise your funding for projects, and can you give us some examples of how you deal with perhaps even setting aside certain projects or objectives in capital constraint?
That's a good question. So we obviously have that discussion as an exec team first, and we discuss it with our board first and foremost. You're right, we've had to make some difficult decisions. So having had a period of growth in terms of the team and the budget and things like that, we've then had a couple of years of the funding being reduced. I said we've made a cut in our overall team by about 15%, but we've lost almost half of our senior team. So we've reduced some of our senior team, changed the team layout as well. So we've done day-to-day things. We have renegotiated, I think, all of our external supply contracts. So we don't have people internally doing IT, HR, various functions, whatever. We go outside, digital, website, whatever. So we've renegotiated all of our contracts to try and bring the cost down of that and what we're getting. So that's the smaller day-to-day activity. What we've also had to do, and I think we put this in the response, so we looked at funding being withdrawn for the academy. We sat down as a team and said, how can we keep going with as much as possible? So we've we're going to be renting out our office space, for example, and we're going to be moving the team into part of the hub stroke academy. So we're not, it reduces the outlay on premises. So things like that we are doing. We are going to prioritise courses and activity like that, particularly around AI and going forward. Also moving towards guided learning. So you've got tutors, people doing homework, remote working, but we found that you still need some physical touch points with them. So to see where we can reduce, we've had to make some difficult decisions about what we reduce doing and pulling some projects as well. But we'll have that discussion internally, and then we'll have that discussion with government at the end of each year to say if that's the funding we're going to get, then this is what we will deliver and what we won't deliver.
Thank you. So a lot of those were housekeeping. I'm interested in what services have been withdrawn or curtailed, and how you arrived at deciding, how did you prioritise? These are the things in terms of actual deliverables, we're going to cut back these, and we're going to maintain these others.
So some of them are easier decisions to make because we had ring-fence funding for courses and that was withdrawn. So we decided we'd had to drop some of those courses because we had that funding specifically for a specific purpose, and that funding, when that funding goes, we say we're not running that. So we had funding specifically from the education department to run courses, and that is the funding that went. We weren't funding those in the economy funding. Other things, to be honest, we're looking through priorities of, one of the things we've looked at, for example, we published an agri-tech roadmap earlier this year. And we talked about having industry roadmaps. The discussion we had with the board is we had to prioritise those industries where we thought we could move the dial most. We had more of a focus on financial services going forward. And what we decided with some of our agri-tech is we would publish the roadmap. We unfortunately had to make the person redundant who was doing a lot of the work on that. So I think I know what you meant, but it's more than housekeeping in that sense. But we've said we presented it to industry and said, look, you can still apply for funding from Impact Jersey, agricultural loans, better business support, but we are not going to be doing anything else on that going forward. We are not going to be doing agri-tech going forward. And a few other areas we pulled away from doing actual projects ourselves and providing more advisory support for other people. And again, we've got Impact Jersey, and we've said to people, we are not going to be supporting certain areas in the same way, but there is funding available if you have an application for resource and things like that. So understandably, we've tried to carry on delivering what we think is really important, and we have that discussion with government and our board, but we can't deliver everything.
Okay, I'm interested in the impact on the island, but I've seen that David has a question.
All I was just asking, I mean, all of this tightening up of your budget, this is surely a sector of the economy. We're trying to diversify our economy. Do you think you're being taken seriously as a sector of the economy?
Oh, okay.
Political
I think we are taken seriously. I think the problem is prioritisation. And I did
from the Economic Development Department?
I think from government, full stop. I mean, you all know better than me. Government has to try and do everything. There are lots of demands on the purse, whatever. I think there isn't enough understanding that digital is the future of the economy, no matter which sector. I think one of the reasons we're focusing on AI is that we think most organisations, with the odd exception, have got more digital over the years. Not as much as we should, particularly the public sector has a long way to go. But AI is the area where the rest of the world is just going to accelerate off without us. And I think there is a massive threat to the Jersey economic model, because AI, if left to the market, the risk is it will automate the well-paid jobs in the finance industry, which are administration, things like that. It won't automate the jobs in hospitality, care, other areas like that are lower paid jobs and generally contributing less to taxation. Somebody did say to me, I won't say who, well, surely, I think there is an assumption that everything is digital, which it isn't. And also, digital isn't just something you do once. So I still think the importance of digital as an economic sector, but also as a horizontal across the economy, is not prioritised enough in Jersey. And we've had a clear example of this recently, and it's already in the media. We didn't go to the media, but the media found out about it from some course tutors. The Skills Fund we were told we would be getting no funding, and there was no need for AI or digital skills courses in Jersey because there was free material online. We fundamentally disagree with that. I can understand there are lots of things which traditionally you call vocational skills being funded, that's fine. But technology skills are vocational skills now. You know, somebody said to us, why are you teaching LinkedIn courses? Well, we have white collar unemployment in Jersey for the first time. LinkedIn is how people get jobs and become economically productive again. People who get made redundant in professional services do not sign on as unemployed. They set up a consultancy business. LinkedIn is their shop window. There's skills around digital marketing, using Office 365. The one final thing I will say.
Yeah, you can see me.
We have, so I
Because
had
I
the
think
head of
that-
CAMS come to see me. They obviously have a backlog of paperwork or whatever. And they were very appreciative of their staff were able to go on Office 365 courses that Digital Jersey was providing for free with government funding. So how they could use the technology they have. And obviously they are the courses we've had to stop. So, you know, when we were running free courses, about 25% of those courses were being filled by civil servants, which is great. They're a big employer, lots of work to do. So digital skills are definitely not being prioritised enough because they are absolutely essential to the future of the Jersey economy.
So there's a certain apparent duplication, but perhaps you can clear that up for us between, for example, the Education Department, Highlands and yourself in terms of providing digital skills courses. Is that genuine duplication, or is there an opportunity that you could work more closely and?
So that's a really good question. I would say there is no duplication, partly because we have worked very closely together. We had, when the economic recovery and fiscal stimulus funds were coming out, we created what we call the Jersey Skills Alliance, which is ourselves, Skills Jersey and Highlands, and we did joint applications for funding across a range of skills courses. Highlands, they do a one extreme, you have how to use a mobile phone for the adult community education courses. At the other extreme, you can do a 3-year degree in computing. We don't do any of that. So the courses we have delivered are not being delivered by Highlands at all. What we tend to do is, and by the way, we don't deliver the courses ourselves in most cases. We commission people in industry locally who are practitioners who will teach that stuff. One of the other things we do is there is the odd training company in Jersey, but they only offer services to a bank. They will go in on the top of an IT project and do them. They're not doing courses for individuals or for SMEs. What we do is commission those companies to run open courses, which individuals and SMEs can go on as well. I can understand why it would look that way, but there has absolutely been no duplication. So the courses we will stop, there is no replacement for those.
Okay, so in 22-23 there was a call for a skills dashboard, and I believe there was one that was supposed to be established. Was it the Jersey Employment Group was putting together a skills dashboard? Can you give us some indication of what's happened with that? Perhaps that would give greater visibility?
So I don't know, we ran a digital skills group, which is a recommendation out of the digital skills strategy that we developed with the education department at the time. The Jersey Employer Group was set up, and we folded there's no point having duplicated groups, so we folded that into the Jersey Employer Group. I don't think the Jersey Employer Group does that much. I don't think it exists in the same way now, but Skills Jersey took on that responsibility going forward. We handed over, when Skills Jersey was created, we handed over things like, we worked with an organisation, ignore the name, but Geek Talent, that would look at skills in the economy and scrape LinkedIn and things like that and look at where we were short of skills. And we handed a lot of that over to Skills Jersey so that we wouldn't have duplication. So we were involved in the Jersey Employee Group, but to my knowledge, that isn't a going concern particularly, or certainly not at the same scale it used to be.
Okay, thank you. My last question would be, so in terms of the withdrawal of funding for skills, that was something that was imposed on you, so it wasn't something that clearly you prioritised yourself or deprioritised. So could you give us a handful of the most important examples of services that you've been obliged to withdraw while we're trying to make...
So we had funding from the education department in sort of two tranches. We had the fixed costs of the academy, which were premises, the head of academy who was a teacher who would teach things, and an admin person to deal with course applicants and things like that. As I said, we had a commissioning model. And then we received money from the Skills Fund through Skills Jersey for the actual course costs themselves. At the end of 2023, I think we had agreement, and anyway, you were Education Minister, because as you said, we had Highland, I should have said, Highlands were using the facility as well. So Highlands were teaching the computing degree in the academy. They were able to access the space for adult and community education, night school courses, etc., which they used. We were told at the end of 2023, here is the fixed cost funding for 2024, but you will need to prepare a detailed business case. We submitted a detailed business case we did with PwC. We submitted that to SIPES in May 2024. We've yet to receive any comment or discussion on that. We went to the Chief Minister at the end of last year to say, look, the board went to the Chief Minister to say we are going to have to pull the academy if we can't get funding. The Chief Minister found us funding for our fixed costs for this year, although we lost the head of academy because which we haven't replaced because he knew there was funding doubts. We've delivered a suite of courses this year, but going forward next year, we will have a reduced physical footprint. So we weren't able to commit to Highlands to use the space, so Highlands have withdrawn from the space because we weren't getting the funding for it. And we are pulling our courses on digital marketing, LinkedIn, I've explained why, Office 365, Copilot and things like that. We are currently, we've made some proposals around what courses we think we can fund moving forward. We will still fund some courses, it's important. We will still fund, so F1 in schools, we didn't have funding for that, but we've got third-party sponsorship from a technology company is sponsoring that, so we covered our costs. So we're trying to deliver as much as we can, but all of that has to come from our core funding from the economy department, which, as you said, has been falling as well. But we've been using a mixture of reserves. We're setting ourselves target to raise more money in terms of sponsorship or funding from membership as well.
I'm minded about the time. We have two quick questions, and we need to, because we had another public hearing. There are two quick questions, one from Deputy Wilson and one from, if you
Yes,
want to
okay.
ask, probably this one.
Tony, you've talked about Digital Jersey being an economic development agency. How different do you see that function to a service delivery entity?
Can you explain a bit more in terms of?
So in terms of development agencies, I would expect that the scope that you've got to develop things like innovation, enterprise, and the fact that you're connected to the economic team would suggest that there is a very strong emphasis on development, as opposed to targets around what you need to produce in terms of activity.
Okay.
So does that?
So historically,
okay?
I think we've had to do both.
Sorry, the question. So the question I'm trying to ask is, where do you see the investment from government targeted most in relation to those functions, and do you feel that there is an opportunity to build on one element of the function that you currently can't do at the moment, if you were to actually pursue some of the commercial interests that you've just alluded to?
I mean, when we say commercial interests, I'm not they're commercial in the sense that we sort of sit at the one of the strengths, I think, of being an ALO is we sit at the interface between the public and private sector and can work with both and can convene both around, as you see in digital health, digital skills, things like that. But the ability to raise money, work from industry. I think it's very difficult to be completely commercial in a small place. We run facilities, so we run a couple of co-working spaces in Jersey. We run the physical academy. We rent offices and desks and things like that. We charge for those services. We charge for membership. We raise money from industry for that and have been very successful, and the industry is very supportive. We also do new product development and things like that, but we don't run some of this. So data trusts are a good example where we've done new product development actually for the finance industry or the business services sector. But actually that is being delivered through law firms, trust companies, but ourselves, and Amy has done an amazing job leading that work with colleagues. We're not delivering that. We're doing the product development, whatever. So the commercial benefits of that won't come back to Digital Jersey. They'll come to law firm. We've got the first paid data trust. University of Southampton is paying a Jersey trust company or whatever to do it. I think it's very difficult to commercialise beyond the extent we are. We're always pushing to try and get more revenue from the public sector. But if you look at larger countries like the UK, where they've tried to get targets of 50-50 funding between the industry and government, they haven't achieved those targets. And even in Jersey, you look at I think we raise quite a high percentage of our funding from industry. Even the finance industry is a minority funding share compared with government because we're just too small a place to be able to do everything commercially. So I think we do a lot of delivery and run facilities, and we do a lot of commercial type projects, but we're helping industry develop commercial opportunities and products because there will still be an economic benefit of that by companies creating jobs, creating new products and services. I hope that answers your question a bit.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So you've clearly talked today about how you've tried to manage your costs and cut your cloth according to budget constraints. Given particularly the FPP's strong alarm that it sounded in its annual report yesterday and the outlook moving forward, how best do you see Digital Jersey progressing and perhaps flexing to the current environment?
So the new business plan we've just taken through our board and we're about to present to government builds on the foundations of things we are going to carry on. We know we're going to carry on with Impact Jersey. We're going to carry on running membership and industry and things like that. But there is going to be much more of a focus on AI going forward, whether that's, our thought leadership focus will be there, working, identifying technology solutions, working with AI companies and automation companies, locally digital transformation companies, relocations around fintech and AI. There are great opportunities about that. You may have seen only the last week, KYC 360, which is a Jersey startup, was sold to Experian and is going to carry on as a Jersey company with jobs. We've had people like WorldPay, Pinpoint. So a particular focus on fintech and AI is useful as an industry and across the economy. But so we are going to have a much bigger focus on AI and much bigger focus on financial services. We can still support other sectors through some of the things we talked about in Impact Jersey. But actually, I think that's the right thing to do anyway because of what is happening globally.
Yeah. Can you see opportunities in terms of collaboration, greater collaboration with similar ALOs operating in that economy space?
Yes, so as I said, the AI Council we've announced today, so you'll be able to see coverage later on, we can send you the pack. is particularly working with regulators, because that's a key part of how we use AI and the guidance industry needs from the regulators about how they can use AI. So the Information Commissioner and the JFSC, working particularly closely, which we do anyway with Jersey Finance. I think the IOD in terms of directors and skills and leadership. And we are working with government, both the internal government technology department in terms of using AI and best practice. So we've already worked with them. Professor Alan Brown, who works for the National Audit Office, and government in the UK has provided advice into officers in terms of AI policy internally. So I think we have to plug into what is going on globally around AI. I mean, somebody is setting up a body around looking at the Crown dependencies in the overseas territories and how they can work with the UK on fintech development and AI development as well. Data trust could be a big part of that. We've got a big event
I'm
going on.
really catching the
But
time.
that's the direction we're going in.
Yeah, it was just a very quick question, if I could, Chair, which is, could you, in a few words, explain what your economic value will be to the island in the next 5 to 10 years, given some of the context you've just outlined?
Well, I can't give you a figure, but I can say, I think that might be quite hard unless we don't measure it, but I think it is in terms of job creation, I think it is job protection, I think it is competitiveness, whether that's products and development or making sure we have the skills here. I think skills underlie everything. You know, there's no point investing in technology and not
Sorry,
skills.
that I need to cut. What I think that we'll follow up with the questions, because question like job creation, I would like to know how many jobs have been created over the last 10 years to have some tangible understanding. And quick question, can Digital Jersey be a commercial enterprise?
As I said before, I think in a small place, being completely dependent on industry funding,
It's impossible.
the finance industry hasn't been able to do it at all. So how could the digital sector, which is much smaller, do it? We can be more commercial, and I think we are, and there are benefits of that. But no, not completely. It would be very difficult.
And to work in partnership with Jersey Business, or it was a conversation about bringing you two together.
Yeah, there's a bit of a myth that we duplicate what we do at Jersey Business. We do very different things, but actually, interesting enough, in terms of collaboration, Jersey Business were paying to run their courses in hotels and things. We are now offer them free of charge the use of the academy space, which will carry on to teach courses. And the Better Business Support Scheme was a very good example about we work with them. About 2/3 of the Better Business funds have been spent on technology projects because we worked with Jersey Business to hit the technology industry, and about 2/3 of that has been done by local technology companies. So we work very closely with Jersey Business, as I said, to make sure that the whole economy takes advantage of the capabilities of the digital sector.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for everyone, and public hearing is closed. We have 5 minutes to turn around. Maybe somebody can put Matt. Maybe where's Matt? Can you please put on the social media that will